Welcome, folks. It's Craig Bushon coming to you live from Reale's Italian Cafe in beautiful Austin, Texas. I got to tell you, I haven't eaten here yet, but I'm going to tell you as soon as I do. It's going to be in about an hour from now. And everyone that I've spoken to about this place says it is fantastic. So we said, well, wait a minute. If we're going to talk about, our veterans, and we're going to talk about capitalism, we're going to talk about America and the election that just happened. And for those of us in the conservative world, thank you so much. Look at the service is great. What better place to go than a family-owned business? Capitalism, right? About go to a place, spend your money in a place that gives right back to the community. And the person to my left knows a lot about that, and he's been on the show before. It's Mr. Tom Pauken. He's the commissioner representing employers of the Texas Workforce Commission. He's a businessman out of Dallas, Texas. He's a lawyer. He's an author of 2 books. He's done a lot of stuff. He's worked for Ronald Reagan, and I want to welcome you back to the show. How are you?
Craig, good to be with you today.
It's exciting time. I know a lot of people are depressed, especially within the Republican Party, about what's happened not too long ago, a week or so, because of the presidential election. But like I said in the intro, here we are in a family-owned business right here in Austin, Texas. Capitalism is still alive. America is still here, but we've got some work to do. But before we get to that, how are you doing and what's new?
Well, today we're celebrating the encouragement of getting veterans back to work. We've got job fairs all over the state of Texas. The inspiration really are 3 veterans from the Texas Medical Center who put together a program down in Houston, all of them veterans, one from the Korean War, really 2 from the Korean War and 1 from the war in Iraq. And they decided, look, we need to hire these veterans coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan. They put a program together. It's been very successful. And out of that has come job fairs all across the state of Texas today to encourage the hiring of our returning veterans and putting that experience to work back in the civilian world. And in fact, I just came from Round Rock, Texas, where we have a number of employers that are hiring vets and a lot of veterans that have shown up at that job fair. So we're pleased. I'm glad to see a lot of people coming around and recognizing the importance of welcoming our veterans back home the right way and by getting them jobs. We got a program called the Texas Veterans Leadership Program that I started 4 years ago, run entirely by returning veterans from Iraq and Afghanistan to help their fellow veterans. So anybody who wants more information can go to the Texas Workforce Commission job site or to the Texas Veterans Leadership Program. Just Google it in and then get the information. And we're there to serve the returning veterans from Iraq and Afghanistan. Well,
that's fantastic because, as you know, unemployment tends to be higher within our returning veterans when they come back. They have to re-assimilate back into society. A lot of times what they did in the service, even though they could have been a medic, for example, and they have all the qualifications, and they could do anything in the public sector that has to do with being a medic or a paramedic, but the worlds don't. The languages are different.
That's what we're working on, to try to get college credit that recognizes the training and experience they had in Iraq or Afghanistan, including those people that were in the medical field. You're absolutely right. Why should someone who's been a medic and, quite frankly, may have been involved in some things where only doctors normally.
That's exactly right. Some field surgeries that you have to do. That's right.
They're taking care of, and then they come back and have to start all over in community college and get their credentials all over again. We're trying to change that and get credit for their experience in the military.
And some people ask, and I speak with a lot of families, a lot of moms, a lot of dads that are inheriting their kids. I mean, the kid could be 22 or it could be a 35-year-old person coming back and struggling to find a job, even having to move back in with their family members, with their parents. And some of them ask me, say, how is it that we don't know these things? How is it that we're now just reacting, not really just the state of Texas, across the country? Why is there no plan?
Well, that's a great question, Craig. The irony is we put this program together 4 years ago, and it was the only one of its kind in the country, the Texas Veterans Leadership Program, and I wanted to make sure it was run by those who actually served in Iraq and Afghanistan, because I thought they were best suited to deal with the issues affecting the returning veterans. And it took about 4 years, but now everybody suddenly discovered, oh, we got to do something for our veterans. It may be a little late, but I'm glad they're doing it.
Well, I'll tell you, there's more people should be following what the state of Texas does. You know, and we always say in Texas, right? You know, everything's bigger than in Texas. But the reality is that Texas is it has to be a leader for our veterans. Right. We have the largest base in the world here. We have, you know, tens of thousands of people who live on Fort Hood every single day, and almost 100,000 that come in and out throughout, you know, a month or two.
Well, and you're going to see a lot of people mustered out as we wind down from our involvement in the Middle East, in Iraq and Afghanistan, and so those people will be coming out of the military, and we really need to address
sure.
those concerns. I was just in Washington, in fact, a week or two ago, because when I was in the Reagan administration, we put together a program called the Vietnam Veteran Leadership Program. This was back in '81 to help our returning veterans from Vietnam, and so it was a reunion of a bunch of us. But one of the guys actually is up there at the Veterans Administration now, and John Garcia, who headed our program in New Mexico, and he says, you know what, we need to put a national program together modeled on the Texas Veterans Leadership Program
sure.
to help the returning veterans. So I think that we'll see the ripple effect, and I'm glad to see these job fairs taking place.
Absolutely. And for those of you out there watching this, and a lot of veterans watch this, and a lot of parents and wives and husbands of veterans watch this program, you have to reach out to the organizations that are there for you, just like Mr. Tom Pauken's talking about. You know, we'll put the posts up on the site on CraigBushonShow.com. We'll put it on our Facebook. We'll even tweet about it, because we have to make sure that we get the right resources to you. And that's the big thing. A lot of people get confused. They get out, and it's very, I mean,
sure.
It's either just a few days to be discharged, or maybe as much as 3 weeks, which is nothing.
Let me tell you, I think back to my own experience. I got back from Vietnam. Where do I sign to be a civilian? They give you briefings on all of these things, and all you're interested in is getting home. And so we try to help those people who may have become a civilian and kind of wonder, what do I do
sure.
now? And the good thing is our folks get the DD-214s of all of the returning veterans who are here in Texas, who served in Iraq and Afghanistan, and try to contact them
sure.
personally and are available. So anybody out there that either is a veteran of Iraq or Afghanistan, or a family member that
sure.
wants to see, you know, I just got a call the other day from a friend of mine who's mother of a returning veteran, who called her and said, I don't, you know, my son doesn't quite know what to do. We put him in touch with the head of our program, and
sure.
got 2 or 3 things working already.
And that's the key. The key is to make sure that people don't fall through the cracks. And in the years past, there have been problems. So I'm excited to see that today's the day, folks. I mean, the November 15th. I printed this out. You can find this what I'm looking at right now. You can even Google, those of you that are right now. You can be watching this on your phone or on your tablet. You can Google Commissioner Tom Pauken, and you can find exactly what we're talking about right on the website. Now, I mentioned we're in a small business, right? Small business is the lifeblood of America. It hires more people than any of the big businesses. It is the true lifeblood. We have to be a very pro-capitalist, a pro-small business country and state. And that's the best way to help our veterans get jobs and become entrepreneurs. You know, we need more people, more entrepreneurial thinking people. We need banks that will lend to those people, risk, yes, but with good business plans, be able to walk into a Chase Bank or wherever and say, look, here's my plan. And that money's dried up a lot.
Well, and let me mention something else, Craig. You know, we have a huge shortage of skilled workers. And anybody who wants to move into the skilled trades area, to give you an example, the average age of a welder is 64.
Oh, yeah.
The
right.
average age of a master plumber is 65. The average age of a stonemasonry craftsman is 69 years of age. There's a huge shortage, particularly in Texas. We've had this extraordinary natural gas and oil set of discoveries all across the state of Texas. Real opportunities out there in the skilled trades. I'll give you a couple of examples. Someone who gets a 2-year associate's degree at Texas State Technical College in engineering-related technology, instrumentation, starts at $68,000 a year. A young man coming out of high school at the Craft Training Center in Corpus Christi, Texas, with an industry-certified credential as a welder, starts at $1,700 a week.
Wow.
You've got a situation, I was just with the board of directors of the Plumbers Association in Texas. 3 years after they get their license as a master plumber, they can be making $75,000 a year. So we've really neglected the value and importance of the skilled trades and the real opportunities that are out there.
Well, it's left the school district. When I was in high school, I could take a lot of this stuff and learn it. Far less of that now is in our schools.
And we've got to change that. Even
absolutely.
in Texas, this idea everybody should go to a four-year university and too much teaching to the test and almost looking down on what we used to call vocational education, now we call career and technical education.
That's right.
That needs to change.
Well, part of that is, part of the problem with that, and I'm 100% in agreement with that, and I've actually done shows on that in the past, where we have so many people going to college who normally wouldn't have, who had an entrepreneurial spirit, who would go in and start small businesses, and they would build businesses that the college graduates could actually come work for, but we've sucked those people out of the market, we've thrown them in colleges, and then who's filling that void? It always gets filled, but it gets filled by a less talented or less entrepreneurial spirited person.
Well, that's a great point, and in fact, the class of 2011, of the college students who graduated with a four-year degree, 50% of them are underemployed or unemployed.
That's right.
And in addition to that, on average, they have debt in excess of $26,000 a year.
Well, I tell the folks, and I've said this to you, and you know this, ladies and gentlemen, we're now at $1.1 trillion in college debt.
Yeah, it's more
in this country.
It's more than consumer debt. And
$1.1 trillion.
And it's non-dischargeable too.
Right. So, and then when you see the government taking it over with this administration, now the taxpayer owns that debt, that a majority of it, a growing number of those people cannot pay it. So that's a bigger debt that we have to take on.
You know, I see kids coming out with $100,000 or more in debt. They may have gone on to law school or graduate school. How are they going to ever get rid of that? How are they going to, do they think coming out with a law degree they're going to go make $150,000 at Fulbright, Jaworski, or some of the major firms? Very few people are in that category, and they just really need to be thinking, is this the right route for me? Or, I mean, I was with a lady the other day, I spoke at a Navasota Republican Women's Club meeting, and the lady came up to me afterwards and she said, you know, you're talking about the importance of career and technical education. My son got a college degree, couldn't find a job, went back to Texas State Technical College, got an associate's degree in a skilled trade, and is now making a lot of money. He's happy with his job.
See?
But
yeah.
He could have done that earlier.
That's exactly right. You know? We have to change the way we approach our high school young adults, young Americans, if you will, soon to be adults, and teach them that there's alternatives, not just the business deal where there's big money in education. I realize that, but the reality is, I completely agree with you. There's a lot of things that entrepreneurialism can bring, and a lot of trades that need to be reestablished, and we can do that in this country. And I'll switch to this next point, you know, because we're talking about veterans today and helping get them get back. Is getting a job is the biggest thing that we can do for them, other than dealing with any medical issues that they may have.
But the quicker they make the successful transition, the best way to do that is to get that experience back to work.
That's exactly right. So here we are. The election has happened. A lot of people, I mean, I get tweets, I get Facebook posts, I get people calling me on my phone saying, boy, you need to sign this petition. A petition for people saying, hey, we need to pull away from the United States here in Texas. And I know a lot of you, listen, people are watching this in Omaha, Nebraska, and some people are watching it on a base somewhere in maybe the Middle East. But the reality is, that is what happens here. The governor mentioned it about a year and a half ago, you know, whether he was teasing or not, but people actually, they're that frustrated with what's going on in the conservative mindset. The Tea Partiers are very frustrated. You know, what's happened in America? I mean, you work with Ronald Reagan,
right.
You dealt with Solinsky, and you've dealt with a lot of these, what I call the enemy of the state.
Yeah, the leftist crowd. You're not going to beat the Solinsky radicals who are determined. They're like termites eating away at the foundations of our nation, just like termites eating away at the foundation of your house. So you're not going to beat them with a bunch of lukewarm politicians that are simply concerned about personal advancement. You've got to have dedicated people who understand the seriousness of the moment and about getting this country back on the right track. What I'm encouraged about, I know there are a lot of people very disturbed. They thought we were going to win clearly.
Third party people are talking about.
Yeah.
I mean,
but I think, look at what happened in 2010. We had a grassroots conservative movement. We began to put a team together. We elected in this state, for example, a lot of people to the legislature, first-termers, and these are bright, young conservatives. We have got to understand the success of the Reagan movement resulted from a team of dedicated, principled people working together, working as a team. Not about just myself, but about the cause, about the country. And secondly, we had good common sense conservative solutions to the problems facing our nation at that time. And we got to do the same. I mean, we're in charge of Texas, and we better deal with some issues that are out there. But I'm one that believes the glass is half full. I'm tired, quite frankly, in our party of lesser of two evils choices. That's what we've been stuck with in the post.
And a lot of compromising on the values of a real true conservative mindset is a very forgiving mindset, meaning that just because people have made a mistake and maybe walked away from the Conservative Party, we more than want to welcome people back into the party. We're pushing people away.
We've got to rebuild a conservative majority, and you got to get beyond the rhetoric, the PR, the sizzle. Too many of our politicians, even on our sides, all they're concerned about is getting a hit in the media and not doing the substantive hard work. I think I'm really an optimist. I think we can put the pieces back together again, but we have got to reach out and lay out an agenda that has broad-based appeal to the majority of Americans. There was a term we used back during the Reagan era. It's called Reagan Democrats. From Michigan, it originated from blue-collar workers in Michigan who went with Ronald Reagan because he represented their concerns. We've got to lay out an agenda to bring manufacturing home to America, border security, addressing the issues, if you will, of growing the private sector. You can't pay for government benefits or services without growing the private sector. And we got the most onerous business tax system in the world. We need to get rid of it, replace it with a border-adjusted business consumption tax that would be revenue neutral and at the same time would level the playing field with our trading competition and jobs and prosperity overseas. It's time for the Republicans to understand you can't have a strong economy without a strong manufacturing base, and yet we've lost and hollowed out that base. 1/3 of our U.S. manufacturing jobs have gone away over the last decade. 5.5 million American jobs, generally good paying, have been outsourced, shipped overseas, or simply gone away. And I argue one of the main reasons is that we have the most onerous business tax system in the world, which rewards debt, which is great for the Wall Street financial engineers, but it's lousy for Main Street Americans, manufacturing companies, and small businessmen and women, which, as you pointed out, Craig, are the backbone of our economic system.
I mean, that's where we're at right now. We're at Reale's Italian Cafe in Austin. This is about, if people don't come in here and buy some food and tip the waitress, the staff, then economics doesn't happen, growth doesn't happen. People can't pay their bills. You know, and to fix the problem within our party, and I say this as a delegate for the state of Texas, I say this as a conservative who has a very independent mindset, because the current Republican Karl Rove mentality does not speak my language, because they're losing. We're not going to gain the people that we need by having Karl Rove constantly, and others like him who've been there forever, who have been wrong. Not just this time, but the last one. We need to have a new face.
Karl was never a conservative. He fought Ronald Reagan in 1980 when Ronald Reagan ran for president. He fought the conservatives in the mid-90s when, in Texas, the conservatives gained control of the Republican Party again here in Texas. So there's a real misunderstanding, because he's on Fox News and because he writes for the Wall Street Journal, that Karl Rove represents conservatism and speaks for conservatives. He's really more of a Machiavellian, a political figure.
Look at that.
Oh, looks great.
Look at this, you see? How often do you get this?
This is a heck of a deal.
Food served on air. But the reality is,
but the point is, the conservatives have got to put a team together. You don't beat the guys with that kind of money if you're just sole operators. And that's what we had a strong team with Ronald Reagan. We had a strong team in the mid-90s. But we've got to put it back together. It started in 2010, so I would encourage conservatives, don't give up. Don't just say, oh, well, let's just succeed. Look, Texas can be the cornerstone of getting this country back on the right track if we go about it the right way.
And again, folks, very important subject today. We're here with Tom Pauken. He's commissioner and he represents the employers at the Texas Workforce Commission here in Texas. Very powerful place in Texas. It's a place that's supposed to get people jobs, help assist people to get jobs, help educate people. And the only way to get jobs is to have people who can hire them. And the laws of capitalism have been broken. The laws, we're a nation of laws. And we could go back to what happened with General Motors. We could go back to what's happened in many instances where after 2008, how this economy has been just consistently nosediving and spending money, throwing good money after bad, and not investing it in us, the American people. Investing it in Wall Street, investing in big business. And I'm a big business fan, but we need to put it into the right big business strategies. And how do we get the new face, though? Fox News is they represent the conservative mindset on cable, and they put these people on there like a Karl Rove or whoever, and they're not doing the things that obviously that it takes to win. Who should be on there? Who can we bring there that that's going to help change that mindset?
Well, Craig, I think, look, I respect our talk show hosts. I respect a lot of the people
Sure,
that
me
are
too.
on Fox News or the folks on the editorial pages of the Wall Street Journal. But having said that, it's got to come from the grassroots. It isn't going to come from New York or Washington or the Beltway conservatives, quite frankly. It's going to come from the grassroots in places like Texas, where we put a team back together of folks that are more concerned about the good of the country than short-term political gain and personal advancement.
Well, Ted Cruz is there.
Yeah, that's a big plus. Very bright guy, big upset, big surprise. And it's important, the thing about Ronald Reagan, and I think all conservatives need to learn from him, he never let his ego get in the way. He had a sign on his desk, there's no telling how far a man can go or what he can do if he doesn't care who gets the credit. And I think everybody who goes to Austin or Washington, it's really important who start out as conservatives to remember that kind of personal humility that was there, that it's about the principles. And this is important. I've seen a lot of people change. In fact, even coming back to Austin, I've been out of government since I left the Reagan administration, and boy, ego can get in the way. So everybody has to watch that, because otherwise it becomes, people can morph into a career politician, and it's very easy for that to happen. Ted Cruz has the potential to be a major leader in Washington.
I completely agree. And before we let you go, Bringing America Home, the book. I think everyone should read it, okay? Tell folks briefly about the book and where they can purchase it.
Well, they can go to tompauken.com. It's TOMPAUKEN.com. And they can get all the information about the book, some excerpts, book reviews, and at the same time information as to how to get it from Amazon. The real thrust of this book is what happened to the Republican Party and our nation in the post-Reagan period of American history. And the first part of the book is how did America lose its way? And it sort of lays out what went wrong in terms of the failure of policies after Reagan left the scene. And both under Republican and Democratic administrations, we got to be frank and critical of our own when they're going in the wrong direction. In fact, one chapter is called Big Government Conservatism is an Oxymoron. And there were a lot of folks that preach the idea big government is fine as long as our guys are in charge of it. And guess what? You set up big government for the most liberal regime in American history, the Obama administration, to come to power, and guess what you got? But the second part of the book is the way back. How does America find its way back? And I think that's critical. We as conservatives, we can't just be against Obama and against the left and against the liberals. What are we going to do to put Americans back to work? What are we going to do to represent the concerns of what Barry Goldwater, who was the founder of the modern conservative movement, politically speaking, who said, I'm here to represent not big business, not big labor, not big government, but the forgotten Americans, the middle-class taxpayers who don't have lobbyists in Washington and aren't looking for loopholes in the law. And that should be our guidepost to represent the average American. We lost them this election cycle. We won them in 2010, and let's win them back in 2014, and do that by going back to our conservative principles and coming up with common sense solutions to the problems that face us here in Texas and nationally. And I think we can put a majority back together again.
Well, I'll tell you folks, I don't know about you, but what you've said here today is what our candidates need to say when they're running for office. Plain talk, real talk, here's how we fix it. Ted Cruz did a lot of that.
He did.
He won. He beat the lieutenant governor, the biggest upset in politics in this state in history. So what's the lesson? Listen, any of you out there, a lot of you who run for office and are in office right now, watch this programming. Make sure that you do just what Mr. Tom Pauken did. Speak directly with the people, not at the people, with them. Bring solutions. Recognize the problems that are there, but bring solutions that include the hard work of every American, no matter what color, no matter what background. And that's the key, in my opinion, of building the conservative mindset, because any other mindset, to me, just doesn't make any sense. Thank
Amen.
you.
Amen.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Craig.
Well, there you have it, folks. Please know if you caught this at the tail end, you can start it over. You know, that's the great thing about how we upload things. We'll have it on CraigBushonShow.com. It'll also be on Be First in Media, and you can also find it on YouTube. I want to thank you so much. And the bottom line is this. If you think that you don't have to get engaged to fix the things that are going on in this country, that's absolutely the wrong mindset. And the proof is, too many of us are thinking that way, and that's why we're in this situation. And remember something, it's not the situation that defines us, it's what we do in the situation that does. So let's do something, and let's do the right thing. This is Craig Bushon, and we'll be back.